man. Pastor Brad here. Just in case this is your first Pastor Brad video, let me introduce myself. I'm a teaching pastor and I'm an 80s Christian metal musician. I love to teach God's word in a way that will build you up and encourage you in your faith. As an 80s Christian metal musician, I love to create music that has that big arena rock, 80s hard rock metal sound, but with lyrics that glorify Jesus. So if those two things sound like something that would be a blessing to you, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel today. Because life is brief, we need God to help us make 3 shifts in our thinking. Okay, this is very practical, very helpful stuff. Let's ask God to help us shift our thinking in these 3 ways. Number 1, we need to turn when into now. We need to turn when into now. All my life, I've heard so many sayings like this. I've said sayings like this. Things like, well, when I get married. I used to be a singles pastor for a number of years in Altoona, Pennsylvania, my first time there. And I worked with a group of singles, and their whole motto in life was, when I get married, then I'll be happy. What? No. No. But you know, well, we've all had that. There's experience coming out in this room. I get it. But you know, I heard him say that. Or when we have children, then we'll have a family. When we have children, then life will really start. And very shortly after that, I remember I've said, when my babies finally get out of diapers, then I'll have 5 cents to rub together and do something with, right? We've all been there, man. When my kids are grown, when my kids finally leave the house. I love you guys. I want you to stay forever, okay? But then I'll have like $10,000 more a month to live with. Can you imagine? You know, when this happens, then this will be better. When I get to that place in life, when I get around that corner, when I get over this hump, then I'll start taking care of my health. Then I'll start focusing on those things. When our kids are grown, then we'll start working on our marriage. Then we'll start really dealing with our relationship, because right now we're just all focused on this stuff and we're putting that on the back burner. When I get out of debt, then I'll start being generous. Then I'll start, giving to God's kingdom and to things like that. That list could go on and on and on and on. And friends, I'm just telling you, I think that if we had 30 days to live, it'd really straighten those things out. We need to turn when into now. I was recently listening to a radio program, and the announcer was interviewing, or he wasn't actually interviewing, he was talking about a musician that I really liked growing up as a kid, and specifically about a tour that he had been part of. And I was really interested because I'd been to one of the shows on that tour. I realized, I saw that guy live. Yeah, I really loved, he's a guitarist, and I loved it. And I was listening, I was all interested, and then all of a sudden the announcer said, it's hard to believe that was 35 years ago. I'm like, what? I had to do the math, man. I'm like, that was yesterday, man. What are you talking about? And I was like, wow, that was over 35 years ago. And it really shook me. I was like, I remember that like it was yesterday. Where did 35 years go? But that's just how life goes. Isn't it funny how sometimes you feel like time can't pass fast enough while you're waiting on this thing? It's like a day sometimes feels like 10 years, but then 20 years feels like, where'd that go? And that just happens. Friends, our life is a mist. It appears for a little while and then it vanishes. The Bible is absolutely right in that. Matthew chapter 6 verse 34. Jesus is in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. He just got done encouraging the people not to worry about what they will wear, what they will eat, what they will drink. And he said, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. And then in the very next verse he says, therefore don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Don't borrow trouble from tomorrow when you're living today. It's kind of another way of saying, live in the present. And that can be a very difficult thing to do sometimes. I struggle with this sometimes because I'm with this person, but my mind's on something else. right? I'm with you. I'm with my wife, with my kids, I'm with my friends, but I'm still thinking, well, what about tomorrow, next week? I got to do this thing, or I'm kind of half on that other to-do list or whatever, and I'm not really where I am. And that's really kind of what Jesus is getting at. Live in the presence with the people. Enjoy the moments that God has given you, because you'll never get to live those moments again. Make the most of them in that moment. Like I said, that's a huge challenge for me, because I tend to be, maybe you're like this, I tend to be a task-oriented person. And I'm always thinking of my list that I want to get done. And I'm running, upstairs when I'm home, or I'm doing this, that, or the other. And that's not all bad. I mean, it's a good thing to be a motivated person. But boy, I am really challenged by this, to be present where I am and enjoy those moments. And I want to challenge you, if that's a struggle for you, to live in that moment. Psalm 18, verse 24. We know this verse. It's a beautiful verse. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day. Don't worry about that next day or the other day or next week. This is the day. God made this day, and He gave you breath in it. He gave you life. He woke you up. You're with people that love you. You have an opportunity to live this day for the Lord and to spend it serving Him and loving the people that you love. Rejoice and be glad in it. It's a choice, by the way. I love the way that's phrased. We will. Let's do this. It's not like we always have that choice to do that, to choose to live in the moment. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 1. Kind of an echo of what James says. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day will bring forth. Yeah. So we need to turn when into now, if we want to make the most of every day we have.